You're telling me the humans won the war with what, exactly? Grand Admiral Zixtal's secondary breathing appendages fluttered in disbelief. Sir, according to our intelligence reports, Lieutenant Kernak consulted his datapad with trembling appendages. They won using what they call memes and something called a rickroll. The Grand Admiral's crystalline exoskeleton clouded over in confusion. The Vashari equivalent of a human facepalm. The mighty Vashari Empire, with its quantum-powered warships and planet-cracking weapons, had been defeated by internet culture. But perhaps I should back up a bit. Hi there! I'm Dave Thompson, Senior Meme Warfare Specialist. Yes, that's a real job title now. At the United Earth Defense Force, and I'm here to tell you how humanity managed to shitpost its way to galactic supremacy. It's not the most dignified story in human military history, but hey, a win's a win, right? It all started 3 years ago when the Vashari showed up in our solar system with their fancy ships and even fancier ultimatum. You know the drill. Submit to our rule, become part of our empire, blah blah blah. The usual space conquistador stuff. What they didn't count on was that by the time they arrived, humanity had already perfected the art of psychological warfare through weaponized stupidity. See, the Vashari had been monitoring our broadcasts for decades. They thought they understood us based on our television shows, our movies, our official communications. What they hadn't counted on was the absolute chaos that was human internet culture. They had no defense against it because, well, how do you prepare for something that doesn't make any logical sense? But Dave, I hear you ask, how does one actually weaponize memes against an advanced alien civilization? Well, my friend, let me tell you about Operation Legendary Lightspeed Laziness, or Operation LLL as we called it. First, we needed to understand our enemy. The Vashari were a highly logical, structured species. Their entire society was built on precise hierarchies and clear communication. They literally couldn't process information that didn't follow their strict rational patterns. Their brains would try to find meaning where there was none, driving them absolutely bonkers in the process. This is where I came in. My team and I had been developing what we called the MEME protocol, massive engagement through memetic engineering. The basic idea was simple. Flood their communication channels with the most nonsensical, context-dependent, rapidly evolving human memes we could find. We started small. A few lost.jpg images in their military transmissions. Some Doge memes in their tactical displays. A sprinkle of bottom text in their navigational systems. But the real breakthrough came when we discovered their neural interfaces couldn't distinguish between important military commands and something as stupid as a deep-fried meme. Here's where it gets good. The Vashari fleet was positioned just past Mars, preparing for their first major assault on Earth. Their ships were arranged in their classic Spear of Destiny formation. Yeah, they were kind of dramatic like that. We had about 6 hours before they would be in range to launch their attack. That's when we deployed our secret weapon. Sir, I said to General Martinez, permission to initiate Protocol Rickroll? The general, who had aged about 20 years in the past week, just sighed and waved his hand. Do it. At this point, what do we have to lose? What happened next would go down in history as the greatest tactical shitpost of all time. We hijacked every single communication channel, every display, every neural interface in the Vashari fleet. And we hit them with it, the most perfectly orchestrated rickroll in human history. But not just any rickroll. This was a specially engineered version, embedded with cascading layers of increasingly absurd memes, each one building on the last in a way that only made sense if you had spent way too much time on the internet. The results were spectacular. Their flagship's AI tried to process the lyrics "never gonna give you up" as a military command, and immediately initiated a full emergency stop, causing 3 support vessels to crash into it. Their neural interfaces, attempting to find logical patterns in Big Chungus memes, caused half their bridge crews to experience what we later termed tactical cringe overload. But the coup de grace? That came from an unexpected source. You see, there was this one Vashari communications officer, let's call him Bob, their actual names are unpronounceable, who had been secretly studying human internet culture out of morbid curiosity. When our attack hit, instead of short-circuiting like his colleagues, he did something unprecedented in Vashari history. He posted cringe. Specifically, he responded to our rickroll with a perfectly executed "no you," backed by a combination of UNO reverse card memes and what can only be described as a masterclass in surreal memes. This singular act of digital rebellion caused a cascade of confusion through their command structure. The concept of a Vashari using human memes was so shocking that their entire chain of command froze trying to process it. While their leaders were trying to figure out if Bob had committed treason or achieved enlightenment, we struck with Phase 2. Operation This Is Fine. We unleashed a barrage of increasingly absurd tactical maneuvers, each one accompanied by its own custom meme. Our ships performed complex formations that spelled out E in space. Our fighters executed perfect lost JPG patterns. We renamed all our vessels to variations of Bodie McBoatface, and changed all our official communications to Uwu speak. The Vashari military doctrine, faced with behavior that defied every strategic principle they had, simply collapsed. Their ships started moving in random patterns as their tactical officers tried to find meaning in our actions. Some vessels began broadcasting deep-fried versions of their own military protocols. At least one destroyer crew apparently attempted to respond with what they thought was a meme, but was actually just a picture of their captain with the text "bottom text" added unironically. That's when we hit them with the finishing move. Remember Bob, our meme-loving Vashari? Well, he had gained quite a following among the younger crew members during the chaos. When we broadcast the final phase of our attack, a massive, fleet-wide transmission that consisted solely of the entire Shrek movie, but every time someone said onion, it got faster and was accompanied by shooting stars music. Bob and his followers staged what they called a pro-gamer move. They took control of the fleet's communication systems and responded with their own memes. Bad ones. The kind of memes your parents would make, but that was exactly what we were counting on. The sight of their own kind attempting to meme, and doing it badly, was the final straw. The Vashari High Command, unable to deal with the sheer cringe of seeing their own species try to be hip and cool, ordered an immediate retreat. As their ships fled our solar system, they left behind only a single transmission. We acknowledge your superior warfare capabilities. We cannot comprehend your tactics, and this terrifies us. Please do not follow us. And that, my friends, is how humanity won the war. Not with superior firepower, not with clever tactics, but with our ability to be so completely and utterly ridiculous that we broke an entire alien civilization's ability to even. In the years since, we've established diplomatic relations with the Vashari. They're actually pretty cool once you get them to loosen up a bit. Bob got promoted to cultural attaché and runs a pretty successful YouTube channel now where he explains human memes to other aliens. His breakdown of loss is particularly impressive. We've had to create some new regulations, of course. The Responsible Mimetic Warfare Treaty of 2157 established strict guidelines about weaponized shitposting. The no Rickroll clause was particularly controversial, but after what happened to the Zeta Reticuli fleet, that's another story. It was deemed necessary. As for me, well, I still serve as Senior Meme Warfare Specialist, though these days it's more about preventing memetic incidents than causing them. Last week I had to give a lecture to new recruits about responsible Doge usage. The next generation needs to understand, with great memes comes great responsibility. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about those first moments when we realized our plan was working. The confusion on the Vashari faces, or what passes for faces in their species, when they tried to comprehend why humans found a frog on a unicycle so hilarious. The gradual realization that they weren't dealing with the rational, logical species they'd expected, but rather a civilization that had turned absurdity into an art form. And you know what? Maybe that's humanity's real superpower. Not our technology, not our resilience, but our ability to look at the vast, serious, logical universe and say, what if we put googly eyes on it? The Vashari have a saying now, taught to all their military cadets. In the face of human warfare, retreat is not cowardice. It is sanity. As for that original Rickroll that helped win the war, it's now preserved in the Smithsonian's new Mimetic Warfare Wing. Sometimes school groups visit it on field trips, and I overhear the tour guides explaining how this ancient video of a man dancing somehow helped save humanity. And every time I hear that, I can't help but smile and think, modern problems require modern solutions. Look, all I'm saying is that technically, the Zeta Reticuli incident wasn't entirely my fault, I explained to the Congressional Review Board, trying not to fidget in my seat. How was I supposed to know they'd take the entire "this is fine" meme literally? Senator Chen pinched the bridge of her nose. Mr. Thompson, you turned an entire alien fleet into what can only be described as... What was the term used in your report? Chaotic neutral memolords, ma'am. Right, that. She shuffled through her papers. Perhaps you should start from the beginning. So here I am again. Dave Thompson, Senior Meme Warfare Specialist, though these days they've added, with restrictions, to my title after what happened. You probably remember me from the Vashari incident. You know, the one where we saved Earth through strategic shitposting? Yeah, that was me. But this story? This is about what happened 6 months later, when we discovered that sometimes the best defense against mimetic warfare is not having a sense of humor in the first place. It started, as these things often do, with a distress call. The Zeta Reticulans were a species we'd had limited contact with before. Think super-logical, hyper-rational beings who made the Vashari look like improv comedians. Their entire language was mathematical equations. They didn't even have a word for fun. The closest they got was non-optimal time expenditure. They had reached out because they'd heard about our victory over the Vashari and wanted to learn about our superior military techniques. This should have been my first warning sign. Anyone who thinks rickrolling is a legitimate military strategy probably shouldn't be trusted with mimetic weapons. But did I listen to that little voice of reason? No, because I'm Dave Thompson, and apparently I never learn. We set up a cultural exchange program. Simple stuff at first. Teaching them about human humor, explaining the basics of internet culture, showing them why cats doing stupid things is objectively funny. They approached it all with the clinical fascination of scientists studying a particularly puzzling bacterial culture. The problems began when they started trying to quantify memes. They created elaborate mathematical formulas to explain why woman yelling at cat was humorous. They developed a 170-page thesis on the tactical applications of stonks. One of their top scientists spent 3 months creating a unified theory of bonk and horny jail. But the real trouble started when they discovered deep-fried memes. You see, the Zeta Reticulan brain processes information differently than ours. Where we see absurdist humor, they see patterns. Complex mathematical patterns that, to them, held the secrets of the universe. The more deep-fried and distorted a meme was, the more profound they thought it was. Before we knew what was happening, they had started a religion based on an especially crispy version of E. Mr. Thompson, Admiral Lewis had called me into her office one morning. Care to explain why I'm getting reports of Zeta Reticulan ships performing complex maneuvers in the shape of Pepe the Frog? I remember trying to look as professional as possible while explaining that they had interpreted our memes as some sort of sacred geometric language. They think they've cracked the code of human consciousness, ma'am. And have they? Well, they're currently trying to achieve enlightenment by recreating loss using entire star systems, so maybe? That's when we received the transmission that would change everything. The Zeta Reticulans had decided that the only way to truly understand human mimetic warfare was to become the memes. Their entire fleet, nearly 1,000 ships, began arranging itself into increasingly elaborate meme formations. They recreated every classic meme in stellar scale. Their flagship changed its name to Big Chungus Prime. Their communications became nothing but E repeated in varying levels of distortion. But the real crisis came when they discovered the "this is fine" dog. Something about that particular meme resonated with their mathematical minds in a way we hadn't anticipated. They saw it as a profound statement about entropy and the nature of chaos. And they decided to demonstrate their understanding by, well, they set their ships on fire, I explained to the Congressional Review Board. Deliberately. All of them. Because this is fine. Senator Chen's eye twitched. Their entire fleet? Yes, ma'am. They said it was, and I quote, the ultimate expression of the meme's core truth. I cleared my throat. They were very proud of their commitment to authenticity. What followed was the most bizarre rescue operation in human history. We had to save an entire alien fleet from itself, while they insisted that everything was, in fact, fine, even as their ships were literally burning around them. They had achieved what they called peak meme consciousness, and were unwilling to leave that state. It took 3 days, 14 emergency response teams, and one very confused therapy dog to talk them down. The final solution came from, of all things, a Uno reverse card. One of our junior officers showed it to their fleet commander and simply said, "No you." The mathematical implications of this simple counter apparently broke something in their collective consciousness. The entire fleet went into emergency shutdown while they tried to process the paradox of a reverse card being used against their perfect meme execution. We managed to rescue their crews, put out the fires, and begin the long process of explaining why setting your ships on fire for the sake of a meme might not be the best military strategy. The aftermath was interesting. The Zeta Reticulans developed a new philosophical movement based on their experience, something they called quantum mimetics. They now believe that all of reality is actually just an elaborate meme created by a cosmic shitposter, which honestly would explain a lot about the universe. As for me, that's why I now have "with restrictions" added to my title. I'm no longer allowed to introduce new species to human meme culture without a full psychological evaluation and at least 3 risk assessment committees. All my presentations now come with a mandatory disclaimer. Results may vary, Side effects may include existential crises, spontaneous ship combustion, and uncontrollable urges to recreate loss using celestial bodies. The Zeta Reticulans still send us holiday cards. They're all deep-fried memes of Santa Claus with increasing levels of mathematical equations layered over them. Our analysts are still trying to decide if they're hiding profound cosmic truths, or if they've just achieved a level of shitposting that transcends human understanding. Last week, we received a transmission from their homeworld, a perfectly recreated stonks meme made entirely of binary stars. The message attached just said, "We understand now." We're still not sure if that's a good thing. The following document was obtained through the Freedom of Information Act, 2158 Amendment, Memetic Warfare Disclosure Section. Some portions remain redacted for galactic security. Classified. Level 4, Memetic Incident. Operation. Designation. The Herald Protocol Senior Officer in Charge, Dave Thompson, Meme Warfare Specialist under supervision. Status. Resolved. Mostly. For the record, I told the Joint Chiefs of Staff, teaching the Andromedans about Hide the Pain. Herald seemed like a good idea at the time. How was I supposed to know they were empaths? The room full of decorated military officers stared back at me with the kind of collective disappointment that I'd grown unfortunately familiar with over my career. General Martinez, my long-suffering superior who'd been present for both the Vashari and Zeta Reticuli incidents, looked like he was seriously reconsidering his life choices. "Thompson," he said with the patience of a saint who's been pushed to their absolute limit. "Please explain how we ended up with an entire alien civilization experiencing what their doctors are calling collective Herald syndrome." Right. So, remember how I'm not supposed to introduce new species to human memes without proper clearance? Turns out there's a really good reason for that. Especially when dealing with a species of touch telepathic empaths who experience emotions as a hive mind. The Andromedans had arrived in the Sol system as peaceful traders. They were fascinating beings. Crystalline structures that communicated through a combination of light patterns and emotional resonance. Their entire society was built on shared emotional experiences. They didn't just feel emotions, they transmitted them across their entire species instantaneously. Naturally, my first thought was, these guys would love memes. In my defense, I had filed the proper paperwork this time. 3 different committees had approved my cultural exchange proposal. I'd even included a warning about potential emotional contagion. But somehow, in all our careful planning, we'd overlooked one crucial detail. The universal human experience of hiding pain behind a smile. It started innocently enough. I was giving a presentation on human internet culture to their cultural advisory board. Everything was going fine until I reached the slide about Hide the Pain Herald. This, I explained, is one of our most enduring memes. It represents the human experience of masking inner pain with outer happiness. We find it funny because it's relatable. That's when I noticed all the Andromedans in the room had started glowing in a way I'd never seen before. Their crystalline bodies were resonating at a frequency that made my teeth hurt. One of them raised what passed for an appendage. Query. This is a common human experience, maintaining external pleasant manifestation while experiencing internal distress. Oh yeah, I said, not yet realizing I was about to cause an interstellar incident. We do it all the time. It's like a fundamental human experience. The Andromedans began vibrating more intensely. Query. Humans exist in this state perpetually? I mean, not perpetually, but that's when it happened. The Andromedans, in their attempt to understand this aspect of human nature, collectively accessed the emotional state of Hide the Pain Herald. All of them, at once, through their hive mind. Have you ever seen an entire species simultaneously experience existential crisis? I have. It's both impressive and terrifying. Within hours, every Andromedan in the galaxy was stuck in what they called the Herald state, maintaining a pleasant external appearance while being consumed by an overwhelming awareness of the fundamental pain of existence. Their normally rainbow-colored crystalline bodies all settled into the exact shade of beige as Herald's sweater in the original meme. Their ships started broadcasting a constant signal that, when translated, just said, "Haha, everything is fine. Why wouldn't it be fine? It's all fine." On repeat. So, General Martinez said, reviewing the incident report. You broke an entire civilization with one meme? Technically, I pointed out. They broke themselves. I just provided the catalyst. That's when the second wave hit. The Andromedans, in their attempt to process this new emotional state, began creating their own versions of Hide the Pain Herald. Soon, our communication channels were flooded with crystal beings trying to recreate that specific smile. Their entire art form, usually focused on expressing pure emotions through light and color, became dedicated to capturing the essence of hiding pain behind a facade of contentment. They started calling it peak human consciousness. The situation reached critical levels when they began implementing what they called the Herald Protocol, a society-wide initiative to achieve what they believed was humanity's highest state of being. Every Andromedan was now required to maintain a constant state of concealed emotional distress. Their diplomatic corps changed their official greeting to a pained smile and a thumbs up. Their ships were renamed variations of "everything is fine." Their entire economy shifted to focus on producing various items featuring their crystalline approximation of Herald's face. We had to do something before we had an entire civilization of alien heralds on our hands. Redacted section. 47 pages of failed intervention attempts. The solution, when we finally found it, came from an unexpected source. Herald himself. Andras Arato, the man behind the meme, was now 139 years old and living in a retirement community on Mars. When we explained the situation, he didn't even seem surprised. He just smiled, "You know the one," and said, "Let me talk to them." What followed was perhaps the most surreal first contact scenario in human history. We broadcast a live feed of the original Hide the Pain Herald, having a heart-to-heart with an entire alien civilization about the nature of emotions, authenticity, and the importance of genuine expression. "You see," he told them, his famous smile as present as ever, "the joke isn't about hiding the pain. The joke is about how bad we are at hiding it, and how that's okay. That's what makes us human." The Andromedans were silent for a long moment, their crystalline forms pulsing slowly as they processed this information. Then, one by one, they began to shift colors again. Their natural rainbow hues returned, but now with an additional pattern that looked suspiciously like Herald's smile woven into their light displays. They had achieved what they called Herald Enlightenment, the understanding that the true meaning of Hide the Pain. Herald wasn't about hiding pain, but about the shared acknowledgement of our attempts to hide it. These days, the Andromedans are mostly back to normal, though they've retained some interesting cultural changes. They still use Herald's smile in their formal diplomatic ceremonies, but now it's accompanied by genuine emotional expression. They've developed a whole philosophical school around what they call the duality of Herald, the balance between honest emotion and social presentation. As for me, well, my title got another modifier. I'm now Senior Meme Warfare Specialist under supervision. Herald protocols apply. I'm required to carry a picture of Andras Arato in my wallet at all times, as a reminder of the awesome and terrible power of memes. The Andromedans send us regular updates on their society's development. Last week, they transmitted a group portrait of their entire species arranged in a crystalline formation that, when viewed from orbit, perfectly recreates the original Hide the Pain Herald image. They captioned it, "Everything actually is fine now." And you know what? I believe them. Ultra classified, Level 5 mimetic incident. Operation designation, the Dolphin deviation. Warning, this document is designated Class M, mimetic hazard. Reading without proper clearance may result in uncontrollable urges to speak in dolphin noises and/or questions about the nature of reality. Before we begin this hearing, Admiral Lewis announced to the assembled Emergency Council, "I want it noted for the record that Mr. Thompson was explicitly instructed not to show the dolphins any memes whatsoever." I shifted uncomfortably in my chair. In my defense, Admiral, they weren't space dolphins when I started. Look, this one's complicated, even by my standards. And trust me, as the guy who accidentally turned an alien civilization into Hide the Pain Herald enthusiasts, that's saying something. It all began during the Andromedan crisis. While we were dealing with their Herald-induced existential crisis, Earth's actual dolphins had been watching and learning. See, what most people don't know is that Earth dolphins had achieved sentience sometime around 2130. They just hadn't bothered telling us because they thought it was funny to keep pretending they weren't as smart as us. I found this out when I received an email. Yes, an email from someone calling themselves Dr. Flipper. At first I thought it was spam, but then I noticed it was written entirely in advanced quantum mathematics with a bottom text caption. The dolphins, it turned out, had not only achieved sentience, but had been secretly studying our memes for decades. They found them fascinating, particularly because they'd been developing their own underwater meme culture this entire time. They wanted to compare notes. Now, I know what you're thinking. Dave, after everything that's happened, why would you even consider this? And you're right. I should have known better. But have you ever tried saying no to a hyper-intelligent dolphin who communicates in quantum memes? It's harder than you'd think. We arranged a meeting at the Mariana Trench Research Station. The dolphin delegation arrived wearing what they called land suits, essentially reverse aquariums that let them float around in water while moving on land. Their leader introduced himself as Captain Yeet. They really had been studying our memes. "We have achieved comedy," Captain Yeet announced through his translator, "but we seek to understand the deeper lore." That should have been my first warning sign. The presentation started innocently enough. I showed them the classics, Doge, Rickroll, all your base. They responded with their own underwater memes, most of which involved complex sonar patterns that apparently translated to something like, "when the fish sus." The problems began when we reached the section about surreal memes. The dolphins became extremely excited about the concept of surreal memes, particularly ones involving the void. Their mathematician philosophers started drawing connections between meme theory and their own research into quantum reality. "Query," Captain Yeet said, his clicks and whistles becoming more intense. "If the void contains all memes, and memes contain reality, then logically..." That's when they did it. Using their quantum computers, hidden in coral reefs this whole time, and their understanding of meme theory, the dolphins attempted to access what they called the meme dimension. They succeeded. Redacted, 23 pages of quantum mimetic calculations. The first sign that something had gone wrong was when all the dolphins started glowing and speaking in Comic Sans. The second sign was when they began phasing through solid matter while making Windows XP startup sounds. They had somehow used surreal memes to break through the quantum barrier between dimensions. Each dolphin had become a living meme, existing simultaneously in our reality and what they called the deep lore. "Mr. Thompson," General Martinez said, reading from the incident report, "are you telling me that Earth's dolphins have achieved quantum mimetic ascension?" "Only some of them, sir. The others are just regular super-intelligent dolphins who can now travel through space and time using the power of shitposting." The situation escalated quickly. The ascended dolphins began appearing randomly throughout human space, usually accompanied by distorted versions of early 2000s pop songs. The Andromedans, still recovering from their herald phase, became obsessed with the dolphins' achievement. The Zeta Reticulans started a new religion based on dolphin quantum memes. Even the Vishari sent a formal protest, claiming that weaponized dolphin surrealism violated the Responsible Mimetic Warfare Treaty. Things reached a crisis point when the dolphins announced their intention to upload everyone to the meme dimension, for the LOLs. That's when we received help from an unexpected source, the planet's octopi, who had apparently also been sentient this whole time. They'd developed their own meme culture based entirely around the concept of stealth and pretending not to be as smart as they actually were. The octopi introduced the dolphins to their premier meme, the idea that the greatest achievement wasn't ascending to another dimension, but rather pretending you couldn't just to mess with people. The dolphins found this concept so amusing that most of them voluntarily returned to our dimension. Most of them. These days, Earth's oceans are protected by what we call the dolphin firewall, a quantum barrier designed to prevent any more aquatic species from achieving mimetic ascension. The dolphins who returned have agreed to only use their quantum meme powers for entertainment purposes, mostly appearing at children's parties and corporate team-building events. Captain Yeet now serves as Earth's ambassador to the quantum realm, though his reports consist entirely of increasingly surreal variations of stonks. We're still not sure if this is due to the nature of quantum communication or if he's just committed to the bit. The remaining ascended dolphins occasionally manifest in deep space, sharing wisdom in the form of crossover memes between quantum physics and SpongeBob SquarePants. The scientific community is divided on whether their insights are profound revelations about the nature of reality or elaborate shitposts. The dolphins maintain that there's no difference. As for me, my title is now Senior Meme Warfare Specialist under supervision. Herald protocols apply, no aquatic species. I'm banned from all aquariums and have to maintain a minimum distance of 100 meters from any body of water larger than a puddle. Last week we received a transmission from the quantum realm. It was just an image of Doge overlaid with quantum equations, captioned, "Such ascension, very transcend. Wow." The dolphins tell me this is the funniest thing ever created, but it can only be truly appreciated in 11 dimensions simultaneously. I'll take their word for it.